Hey folks, what's going on? Coach Gav back again. Next episode of the podcast. We've gotten out of the habit of numbering them when we film them, because then when I upload them in a sequence it all gets confusing. So it's just far easier this way. I want to talk today about probably the biggest issue we as parents face raising kids of all ages in 2025 and in the modern world and beyond, and that is the lack of context. So we all kind of hear the whole screen time's bad, it's this and it's that, and social media is really bad and it's this and it's that, and that's the reason why that's why our kids are going to turn out like little arseholes and shitheads. And it's not. What's missing is context, in terms of it's so easy nowadays, even for myself, to clip something and here comes a truck, to clip something and to post it, and the clip could be quite salacious or controversial or misleading, and then it's like all you need is like a couple of people to kind of get behind it or get on it, or to get on it or get behind it, and something can blow up. One thing in particular that springs to mind is there's a clip on the go on Instagram or TikTok where it's some woman doing an interview, and there was a phrase years ago, yes, haircuts needed, but there was a phrase years ago where it's if you love your job, or it's like basically if you love your job, like it's not like coming to work or something else. Anyways, the modern version of that is don't love your job, job your love. And the guy sitting across me was like, oh my god, yes, oh my god, that's the dumbest fucking thing I've heard in I don't know how long. And I've said some dumb shit, but don't love your job, job your love. That's stuff I would say where you just basically, it's like going ABC, CBA. You're just reversing the first half of the sentence, and it doesn't mean anything. I understand the concept of loving your job. Loving your job or enjoying your job makes it easier to go to work for 40 plus hours a week, because that's where we spend as adults a bulk of our time. But what's happened is that clip has now taken off and it's going around, and now, or it's like this, it's like the 6, 7, it's something the kids do. It has no meaning at all, but it's taken off like wildfire. And when it's something I come from the generation from watching wrestling, we're suck it, that's it's the bottom line because Stone Cold said so. All these different phrases, like Roy Keane, when he did the podcast there a couple of years back, was like, he's just doing his job, So we as parents struggle in terms of not with what our children of all ages. Again, my 4 girls are spread over a decade and a half. The main issue isn't what they're consuming. The issue is that there's no context provided. There's no context provided about what they're consuming. When I sit down and watch Coronation Street every week, okay, I understand that the topics on the show are being written into the script to cover certain topics that are being faced in the real world. Now, those topics are covered in a more dramatised, sensationalised manner because it's a TV show and they want it to be entertaining and you come back. But it overall, it kind of covers things that people reflect when they're going through, say, if there's big elections kind of coming up, or big topics coming up, or if there is, they had a big thing about Pride Month there when they were on it as well. So there's a shift in the focus in it when they're race crimes and that kind of stuff. So I, as a 38-year-old adult, can understand when I watch stuff, there's a context to it. Reality TV at the moment. I'm going to break my neck coming down this hill. Reality TV, Married at First Sight, Love Island, all that kind of stuff. We watch good bit of trash TV in the house sometimes. It's watching everything with context, and it's understanding that we'll take the long way. We're doing well. It's understanding that what you're watching isn't actually how life goes. It's not as dramatic as that needs to be. Okay, there's some truth in it, where in terms of, hey, this is a real issue, this is a real concern or a consideration, but there's no context in it. So when I'm talking with Shan and Rachie and Freya and Mila, and even when me and Yolanda are kind of trying to kind of work out stuff, it's a case of, right, you know, it's trying to have them understand context. A lot of it, like, we generally try and steer clear of right and wrong in the household, especially with the older three, because it's not necessarily about what's right, what's wrong. It's about, hey, we're like, in context, here's what's going on. Freya understands that in the context of playing her GA matches, she can get a bit more feisty and a bit more aggressive and kind of stand your ground. She also then understands that when the match is over, you move on from it, and when you go about your day-to-day life, that's not how you operate. Trying to teach context to Mila at 6 is flipping tricky, and that's where I then need to keep context in mind and understand that she is 6. She's not necessarily going to get that she had a wrinkle in her sock today and it was the end of the world. And of course Yolanda was trying to get ready for work, I was trying to get ready for work, and then I had to do an errand for a family member before coming to work, so we were under pressure time wise. And then I understood the context of that, we got to get ready. Mila's like, my sock is itchy, and I was like, that doesn't flipping matter. So this is where kind of context all kind of comes into play with it, and this is I think, like you said, it's the biggest issue on it. Frey got a phone there within the last 2 years, so again, myself and her mum, we were like, listen, here's the rules, here's the parameters, here's why it's a good thing or not a good thing, and keeping everything like in context, you know. So it's helping them all understand that, like, you know, especially our oldest two, Shannon and Rachel, like I said, they're at the stage now of their lives where young adults trying to kind of create more of their own independence in life moving forward, and understanding about the decisions they make. It's, again, we're not like, hey, this is right or wrong, just hey, here's how things might actually seem. You know, it's possible that it could be one thing, but also keep in mind maybe it's something else. And we have kind of, Morty taught me ages back, you know, when you approach life and situations in it in terms of everyone is just doing what's best for them in that moment. And it's not necessarily about it from a selfish capacity or a selfish point of view. It's more so about I have to have my best interest at heart. I've conversations coming up in work here, and I've plans and that, and it's about what's best for me and my family, not necessarily about what's best for like work overall. Now, what's best for work does come into play in some sense, but again, it's context. I need to do what's right for me and my gang and our future moving forward with it. So again, it's sitting down and having conversations with your family, with your partners, with your ex-partners as well, like, you know, and trying to have everyone understand kind of what's going on here, because it's not like sitting there and saying, hey, this is right, this is wrong, you know. That kind of can kind of come into an argumentative thing, and yeah, sometimes it does. Mila starts, or any girl starts smacking or whatever, hey, that's wrong, that's just blanketly wrong. But also, it's before that stage of when they're in the middle of kind of planning things and looking at things, right, well, you know, kind of context wise, here's where you need to maybe be a bit more open-minded. Now, we'll talk about that on open-mindedness on a separate topic, because that's a bit of a hot button issue for parents as well at the moment, in terms of there seems to be like nothing off limits in terms of the world we live in, and that kind of can cause its own shitstorm as well. But just like, I think sometimes for us as parents, we just more so, and like, only when I became a parent did I understand kind of what my mum and my granddad were trying to do and still trying to do in terms of instilling morals and beliefs and right and wrong and everything in us, and we do, we do have to, even now we do still need to teach our kids what is kind of right and wrong and everything else. But also beyond that, the next step beyond that, it's to helping them understand how things can be held in context, so that something happens in school or something happens in work or in sports, and you can kind of frame it in context. Like we spoke with Freya there in the match, we see a young woman there giving her fucking shit, and I was like, hey, it's just in the context of it, I said, this only matters in this 80-minute window when you're playing sports. It doesn't actually matter beyond that in terms of your actual day-to-day life, and even like that, again, to take sports slightly further again, you have a bad match or you have a bad half of a match, okay, that's fine, let's just keep it contained in that area, and then you're able to move on from then with it. So to kind of wrap it up here before I get too cold outside, teaching context to children, it's like sitting at the table and you're leaving it, you're kind of going, hey, here's what it is. You put the topic on the table and you leave it there, and you help them kind of consume it, but you also do so kind of at their own pace, because whenever we're force fed anything, there's a resistance to it. It's kind of we're all that way. No one likes being told what to do, so sometimes we will say to, like, they might not, like when we're talking to the girls, when we're helping raise the girls, they might not be in the headspace to hear the conversation in that moment. I know I haven't been. I know it took me years sometimes when my mum was trying to teach me something, and I was like, oh, because I wasn't in the headspace, because my head was up my arse, to hear what was being said. And even kind of what you landed in as well, husband and wife are keeping a good marriage going here, and to kind of get through the hard times, I need to be able to hear the context in which she's trying to tell me something. And it's not about right and wrong, it's about like, hey, when we end up in this scenario again, how do we do it better, how do we do it differently, how do we learn from it, and then kind of moving on from there with it. So context is, if you're struggling with helping them understand it, and because like, that's another part, we as parents are also trying to kind of navigate the modern world as well. Listen, we are the first generation that are parenting with this level of access, in terms of kind of what our kids have access to in terms of information, good and bad, and everything else. It's like kind of way back when TV shows were airing, kind of, my mom kept a fairly straight line on stuff then at home, so she didn't know what was airing on the shows, so it was easier to kind of go, well, I'm gonna kind of lean on the side of caution here and say, well, just you're not watching that because I can't supervise and I can't make sure that whatever you're watching is not going to turn you into a little arsehole. We're the same with the kids. We try as best we can to kind of watch what they consume, help them understand. Again, Mila's watching gymnastics, and like, again, she's watching gymnastics stuff, so the content is fine, but it's the context of what they're doing. She needs to understand when she's watching it, if the girls are being overly dramatic or whatever, she understands, like, hey, that's not real, it's only a video, you don't carry on like that. And then if her behaviour goes off on a tangent, that she is able to kind of separate the two from it then as well.